Alright, welcome back to How to Create Hero Concepts. Today we're going to be looking at Getting Creative, Part 1. Looking at Chugger, Role 8, Playstyle Radio, which means he does aerial damage, radial damage around himself, and description, Soda Man. He's another human hybrid. We'll get to his story in just a second after we talk about his abilities and stats and how to get creative. So he's a Soda Man. He's a human hybrid of a man and soda. Actually, I think this makes sense to go over his story first, so we can see how we get creative. So Chugger is a human hybrid, a mix between man and carbonated fluid. His skin is a mix of flesh and sludge, allowing him to spray mixes of fluids out of his pores and off his skin. He is also able to produce soda when combining his naturally carbonated fluids from his body with sugars synthesized by his body. So as we can see, he's a man that's a human hybrid of carbonated fluid and a human. So he can naturally produce liquid. So, as we can see, his primary fizz pot is liquid. He shoots out carbonated fluid from his body. Yeah, it pretty much lines up with his ability set and why he's a human hybrid. I mean, if you can shoot fluid out of your body, why not use that as a weapon? Passive, bouncy, bounces off walls and structures. I mean, his skin is made out of sludge and flesh, so he can pretty much bounce off of anything, because he's basically like a human snowball or human water ball of water. Super bounce. Instead of just jumping, he can super jump. So instead of jumping, he can just jump like 3 times the height of a normal person. Rizzy cans, double self-heal cans, times 2, 8 seconds per. So to heal himself, he just whips out a can of his own fluid and sprays it like a perfume bottle all over him, self-healing him, and he can do it 2 times, 8 seconds per can. Puddle pump, spray healing puddle in 5 directions. So, if he can spray fluid, he can also produce healing fluid, and he can spray this in 5 different directions, healing 5 different allies. Dual pumps, dual spray of healing puddles, so he can spray 2 different healing puddles in 2 different directions of his choosing. And then ultimate mega chaos, supersize and issue melee punch strikes, so he becomes a huge soda carbonated fluid monster and punches people with his humongous hands, as he's a giant chaos monster. Now the reference I would say for Mega Chaos as the ultimate actually comes from a Sonic video game. I'm going to see if I can look it up real quick to give you a reference, because we're going to go over a stat block anyway, so I might as well go over this reference. So I think Chaos Sonic the Hedgehog monster, and so you can get a feel for what I'm talking about. Chaos is a giant monster made out of water. Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm looking at right there. That's what I'm talking about. A giant monster made out of carbonated fluid. Or, in this case, a giant monster made out of water. But in our case, we're talking about Chugger here. And Mega Chaos is just a giant... He's just a giant monster made out of carbonated fluid and issuing melee punch strikes. So with our reference out of the way, let's get to our vertical stat block. So we have Chugger here. Chugger is a soda man, and playstyle is radial. Obviously, I think it was fizz pot, which is a fluid. So we give it the poison because it's elemental, it's fluid. So it's like either fire or water. So we got fluid. So we give it the light green. Then we have passive bouncy. Of course, he can bounce off walls and structures. Super bounce was the super jump ability we talked about. Dual pump. Bouncy is an ability. Just helps you, doesn't do any damage to anybody else. Same with super bounce. Dual pump is another fluid attack, but it's a biofluid attack. Same thing with Rizzy cans. There's 2 of them that you can use, and that's self-healing. As we said before, you can self-heal yourself with like a perfume-style can that's filled with your fluid. And then puddle pump, which is the same thing as dual pump, except instead of making just 2 puddles of healing fluid, you can make 5 of them. And then for the ultimate, as we said before, is Mega Chaos, in which you get to issue melee strikes. Alright, so what do I mean by getting creative? Well, I set up the premise. He's a soda man. He's a human hybrid. He can produce soda. He can also spray mixes of fluids out of his pores and skin. Fizz pot is just him shooting out carbonated fluid. Bouncy and Super Bounce are about the fact that his skin is a mix of flesh and sludge, which basically replicates water. Rizzy cans, I mean, it's just cans that self-heal him because it's filled with soda that he naturally produces, so it naturally heals him. Puddle Pump and Dual Pump are just spraying healing fluid out of his arms and hands and his pores to create puddles of healing for his allies. So this is just about getting creative. When you make a hero concept, you give them a description, you think about it. Like, for example, what if you have an orc who had an orc, well, you think orcs wield axes, so I'll give him an axe. Orcs also can have shields. They also can headbutt, so give him a sharp helmet. And he can have his helmet protect him from headshots. The helmet also allows him to headbutt because he has a horn, so he can do damage with his headbutt. He has an axe and a shield. You've given him 4 abilities just right there. And if you want to give him a 5th ability just out of nothing else, give him spiked fists, and he can do damage with a melee strike. That's 5 abilities just by thinking of an orc. So remember, get creative. Let your imagination run wild. Brainstorm. Put on some calming music and just think about stuff. You'll never know what your imagination may give you for a creative hero design. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you like, dislike if you don't, subscribe if you like it. I'll see you guys next time. Toodaloo!